Good evening. When I joined Hindustan Aeronautics Limited as a management trainee, as a young management trainee, I was told the story of the first indigenous supersonic aircraft that we had developed and designed. Of course, this is not the one. So the aircraft was named HF-24, Hindustan Fighter 24. Tried to fit the engine and fly the plane, it could never achieve supersonic speeds. The problem was the engine that we had procured from the United Kingdom could not deliver the thrust required to make the aircraft go at supersonic speeds. 3.5 decades later, when a team decided to venture once again into development of a fighter aircraft, this time called the light combat aircraft, we adopted a different route altogether. This was confirmed to me by late Dr. Arunachalam, who was scientific advisor to the Raksha Mantri at that time. He said, what we did this time was, we decided to buy the engine first. We decided on the engine first, and we said that we'll develop the power plant around this engine. And the engine chosen was the F404 from General Electric, USA. Many were surprised with the choice because we have never dealt with USA on defense matters. Many were surprised with the decision to buy from US. But that was the decision of the think tank. And what a game-changing decision it was to first decide on the engine and then build the airframe. As we speak, the F404 continues to power the Tejas Mark 1 and the Tejas Mark 1A. 32 aircraft out of 123 on order have already been delivered to the Air Force. Many more orders are in the pipeline. We have also signed a collaborative agreement with General Electric for co-development of the F414, which will power the next generation of Tejas Mark II aircraft. The Tejas aircraft, and that's the GE 404 engine. Now, from the Tejas story, it's very clear that good decisions are preceded by proper assessment of long-term strategic needs. So, no assessment of strategic needs, you can end up with a poor decision. Now, that applies not only to technology selection, that applies even, for example, something like personal investment planning, or it could be corporate investment decisions. All these need to be preceded by proper assessment of the long-term goals or the needs. So once you assess the needs, what's likely to happen is that a lot of strategic options emerge. There should be no procrastination. There should be no half measures. Just go for it. So even in investment planning, for instance, when you have a range of options, you need to evaluate the various investment options that are available, and then you choose the best option that is available. Now, any long-term decision involves a lot of uncertainty. So therefore, what you need to do is to back your convictions with definitive action. You cannot back out just because management techniques, risk mitigation measures and things like that, but certainly you need to back your conviction with definitive action. So what we did in the case of the Tejas was, and the GE 404 was, there's something else. I made an important decision, a shift in my, to be able to influence young minds, to be able to transform them, to be able to empower them. Of course, I must admit that I was not sure whether be able to capture the imagination of the young. But there was no time to be wasted. The decision was made and one had to plunge. One had to take the plunge. And then, so that's when I joined a business school as a finance professional. And later on, I became the dean of the school as well. And then that was the start of an exhilarating journey, which I never got tired of. I remember that we would invite every batch, every new batch, with a lot of excitement. Each batch which would come in, we would start with an orientation program spread over 3 weeks. So we would have the orientation program, and then it would be followed by book reviews. It would be followed by a mini project. A lot of bonding would take place between the faculty and the students. And then we would make sure, and there would of course be a lot of book reviews and things like that. And finally, we would make sure that we ended the whole experience, the whole of the 3 weeks of wonderful experience, with an outbound activity. And this would be an outbound learning experience. When the classes actually commenced, we made sure that the early morning before the classes actually started, we would make sure that we started with a roundup of current events of all the global events that were taking place. We would take stock of what was happening with the stock markets around the world. We would take stock of the forex markets. We would take stock of what was happening in geopolitics, in politics, international business. So there were a whole lot of issues that we would discuss. And learning was not a one-way street. Learning was mutual. Students learned from us and we learned from them. The actual classroom also would connect with practical life as much as possible. It would be very close to real life. So we would have a range of pedagogical and andragogical methods which we would use to convey to students and to connect with them. So we would have simulations of stock market activities, we would have case studies, we would have hackathons, we would have idea contests, we would have brand launches, we would have brand repositioning exercises. So a lot of excitement in the classroom where it was not simply restricted to lectures. So we brought industry into classrooms. That was absolutely a thrilling experience for all of us, and I'm sure that it was equally interesting for the students. Now, the teaching pedagogy also incorporated one more additional aspect. So all the theory would be accompanied by application and by practice. The practice, every theory component would end up with a project. At the end of the whole program, we would make sure that students also embark on what we call as the global excellence trail. We would make sure that they would travel to at least 3 countries. And in those 3 countries, they connected with leaders and with managers. They looked at best practices in infrastructure management, in corporate management, enterprise management, and the way the entire social enterprises also operated. So global exposure combined with experiential learning. Another very interesting aspect that I was able to use whatever I had learned in industry. Dr. Chandra Raichand, my chancellor, and me were able to co-found the JAIN Launchpad, or the JAIN University Incubation Center. We had the privilege of incubating 100+ startups. We had a special program for encouraging women entrepreneurs to come up with startups. Grants were given by the government, and we administered seed funds to be distributed to needy entrepreneurs. The second dimension of which was the most exciting, the most interesting part, was that there was the direct transfer of skills to my students. They picked up skills of entrepreneurship, of risk management, handling international finance, handling financial modeling, decision making. So a whole lot of skills and knowledge components could be transferred to the students. And there was tremendous outcome. Today, our students are CEOs, they are CXOs, and many of them are entrepreneurs. Many of them, a very interesting aspect is that they have ended up as social entrepreneurs who have built social enterprises, which can, of course, have a multiplier effect when it comes to impact on society. The third aspect of, in terms of transferability of skills, was you can transfer your skills to institution building. These could be converted into institutional practices. We could influence academic governance in our organizations with the knowledge that we have gained from industry. We could introduce academic governance, e-governance, and also technology-enabled learning. A whole lot of issues we could do through this mechanism of being able to transfer skills. So, ladies and gentlemen, choices we make result in benefits not only at the individual level, but at the societal level. Thank you very much.